Welcome back to our Hollywood Who Died Today channel. Today we're taking a deep dive into the lives of talented performers who have left us too soon, often without us even realizing it. From Hollywood icons to rising stars, these individuals made significant contributions to the world of entertainment before they passed away. Join us in honoring their legacy and reflecting on the impact they left behind. Now, let's get started.
Because I have to learn to be patient now and learn to develop other attributes, and it really has.
Tragically, Alan Osmond, the eldest member and guiding force of the beloved family music group, the Osmonds, passed away on the evening of April 20th, 2026, at the age of 76. He died surrounded by his wife Suzanne, of 51 years, and their 8 sons, bringing to a close the life of a man whose leadership, faith, and quiet strength helped shape one of America's most successful family acts. His passing marks the loss of not only a musician, but the brother many credited as the foundation of the Osmonds' extraordinary journey. Best known as the eldest brother and early leader of the group, Alan played a central role in building the Osmonds into international stars during the late 1960s and 1970s. As a singer, guitarist, producer, and creative force, he helped guide the family's sound, discipline, and image during their rise to fame. While younger brothers often stood in the spotlight, Alan was widely recognized as the steady hand behind the scenes, the one who carried responsibility so others could shine. His vision and dedication were essential to the group's enduring success. Born on June 22, 1949, in Ogden, Alan was raised by George Verrill Osmond and Olive May Osmond in a large and talented household alongside his siblings, Merrill, Wayne, Jay, Donnie, Jimmy, Tom, Verrill, and Marie. He became the leader of the family band at just 8 years old, earning the nickname Number One from his brothers. Under his guidance, the Osmonds became known across America and beyond for their harmonies, energetic performances, and wholesome family appeal. Beyond music, Alan devoted his life to service, family, and faith. He helped create the Children's Miracle Network Telethon, which raised billions for children's hospitals, and also launched the One Heart Foundation to help vulnerable children. Even after retiring from performing following a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis 4 decades ago, he remained a source of inspiration through his courage, warmth, and steadfast optimism. Alan is survived by his wife Suzanne, their 8 sons, 30 grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren. Tributes poured in from his family, with brother Merrill Osmond describing him as a gifted creator, a man of faith, and a loving soul whose life blessed many. Alan Osmond's legacy lives on through the timeless music of the Osmonds and through the love, sacrifice, and leadership that defined his remarkable life.
But you know, Jake, sooner or later, Jane is going to need some intellectual stimulation.
Patrick Muldoon, a charismatic actor, producer, and musician, was best known for his memorable roles in some of the most beloved television dramas and cult films of the 1990s. With a career that spanned more than 3 decades, Muldoon became a familiar face to audiences through his performances as Austin Reed on Days of Our Lives, Richard Hart on Melrose Place, and Xander Barkalow in Starship Troopers. His striking screen presence, natural confidence, and effortless charm made him one of the standout performers of his era, while his versatility allowed him to move seamlessly between daytime television, primetime drama, and feature films. Born in San Pedro on March 27, 1969, Muldoon was raised with a competitive spirit and strong discipline that later shaped his career. He attended University of Southern California, where he played football for the famed USC Trojans before turning his attention to acting. While still in college, he began appearing on television, first with a role on Who's the Boss, and later on, Saved by the Bell. Soon after graduating in 1991, he landed the role that would launch him into national fame when he originated Austin Reed on Days of Our Lives, quickly becoming one of the soap opera world's most recognizable stars. As his fame grew, Muldoon expanded into film and production. In addition to acting, he executive produced a number of features, including The Card Counter, Marlowe, and The Tribes of Palos Verdes. He also remained passionate about music, often performing with his guitar and serving as lead singer of the Sleeping Masses. Those closest to him remembered him as endlessly generous, stylish, humorous, and full of life. A man whose warmth made others feel safe, valued, and seen. Tragically, Patrick Muldoon passed away suddenly on April 19, 2026, at the age of 57, following a heart attack. His death shocked friends, colleagues, and longtime fans who had continued to follow his enduring career. He is survived by his partner Miriam Rothbart, his parents Deanna and Patrick Muldoon Sr., his sister Shauna, and his beloved extended family. His legacy lives on through the unforgettable characters he brought to life, the joy he gave audiences, and the kindness and magnetic spirit that made him impossible to forget.
I don't think it would even matter, because we just grew up that way, didn't we, Donnie?
It don't matter to me.
Wayne Osmond, the quiet foundation of a family that sang to the world. Wayne Osmond, an original member of the legendary family music group, the Osmonds, was the steady heartbeat behind one of America's most beloved musical dynasties. As the powerful baritone voice anchoring the group's signature harmonies, Wayne was rarely the one in the brightest spotlight. Yet without him, the sound would never have been the same. He helped guide the Osmonds from humble church performances in Ogden, Utah, to international fame in the 1970s, when hits like One Bad Apple and Crazy Horses turned the brothers into household names. Though the world often looked past him toward flashier frontmen, those who knew the music understood. Wayne was the foundation everything else was built on. Born Melvin Wayne Osmond on August 28, 1951, he was the fourth of 9 children in a deeply close-knit family shaped by faith and music. He began singing as a child alongside brothers Alan, Merrill, and Jay in a barbershop quartet that first performed for their church congregation in 1958. Their natural talent caught the attention of producers and soon brought them to national television on The Andy Williams Show, where younger brothers Donnie and Jimmy later joined the act. As the Osmonds rose to stardom through the early 1970s, Wayne's warm baritone became an essential pillar of the polished, wholesome pop sound that defined an era and won the hearts of fans across generations. Behind the fame, Wayne faced years of profound health challenges with remarkable courage and quiet grace. In 1997, he underwent surgery for a brain tumor and lost nearly all of his hearing during treatment, a devastating blow for a man whose life had been defined by sound. In 2012, a stroke took away his ability to play guitar, silencing another part of how he expressed himself. Yet Wayne refused to be defined by loss. He once said that illness had opened his eyes and helped him appreciate life more fully, a reflection that said everything about the man he was. Tragically, Wayne Osmond passed away in January 2025 at the age of 73. after suffering a massive stroke in Salt Lake City. His death marked a heartbreaking milestone for the Osmond family. He was the first of the siblings to pass away. The grief had barely begun to settle when the family faced another devastating loss. On April 20th, 2026, Wayne's older brother Alan Osmond died at age 76 after years of living with multiple sclerosis. Long regarded as the group's leader and guiding force, Alan had stepped away from performing decades earlier, channeling his energy into service and philanthropy. He was instrumental in co-founding the Children's Miracle Network and later established the One Heart Foundation, leaving a legacy that reached far beyond music. In the span of just over a year, the Osmond family had lost two of its brothers, a grief almost unimaginable for a family that had always faced the world together. Yet, the remaining members carry on, as Osmonds always have. Merrill Osmond has continued writing and recording, recently teasing a new album titled Unbroken, a title that feels quietly symbolic. Jay Osmond has channeled his creativity into theater, developing The Osmonds, a new musical in England. Donny Osmond continues to draw sellout crowds at his Las Vegas residency, while Jimmy Osmond has focused on his health and family following his own stroke in 2019. Marie Osmond, though never an official member of the group, remains one of the family's most recognizable and beloved faces. Wayne Osmond's legacy endures in the music he helped create, in the resilience with which he faced suffering, and in the warmth he brought to everyone around him. Two brothers have now gone, but the family they helped build continues to sing, to create, and to live by the values of faith, love, and unity that made the Osmonds truly unforgettable.
There's songs on there for everybody. That's Dave Mason.
Tragically, Dave Mason passed away peacefully on April 19th, 2026, at the age of 79, at his home in Gardnerville, Nevada, his passing confirmed by his personal representative on behalf of his family. A pioneering English guitarist, singer, and songwriter, born on May 10th, 1946, in Worcester, England, Mason co-founded the iconic rock band Traffic in the 1960s alongside Steve Winwood, helping shape one of the most distinctive sounds of the era. He is best remembered for writing "Feelin' All Right," a song that became far more famous when Joe Cocker recorded it, and for his enduring solo hit "We Just Disagree," which introduced him to a whole new generation of listeners in 1977. His solo career produced 3 gold albums in the United States, Alone Together, Dave Mason, and Mariposa de Oro, cementing his place as a respected voice in classic rock. In recognition of his lasting contributions to music, Mason was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In his later years, Mason faced a serious heart condition that forced him to step away from the stage he had loved for decades, canceling his Traffic Jam tour in 2024 and eventually retiring from touring entirely. For a man who had given his life to live music, walking away from the road was not a defeat, but a quiet act of grace, choosing health and the people he loved over the spotlight. In his final chapter, he found peace at home in the beautiful Carson Valley of Nevada, surrounded by his beloved wife Winifred and the life they had built together. He is also survived by his daughter Danielle. His death marks the end of an era, but the music he leaves behind, timeless, soulful, and deeply human, will continue to resonate for generations to come.
I started playing guitar when I was 7 years old, and I've been writing serious songs ever since.
In 1964, an 18-year-old girl stepped onto a Greyhound bus in Tennessee with $20 in her pocket, a second-hand guitar, and songs that nobody wanted to hear. No return ticket, no backup plan. Only one unshakable conviction: that her voice was not born to die in the silence of the Smoky Mountains. That woman would go on to write more than 3,000 songs, sell over 100 million records, build an empire worth more than $650 million, and give away over 200 million books free of charge to children who had nothing. But before we talk about those numbers, stop and ask yourself this: what truly makes a legend? Is it talent? Or is it something that never appears on any chart? The endurance of a person who has lost everything more than once and still chose to get back up. Behind the platinum wigs, the rhinestone costumes, and that smile that never seems to dim, there is a story of wounds that never fully healed, battles fought in the dark, and a loneliness so profound that not even fame could fill it. Before we get there, let me ask you something. What do you actually know about Dolly Parton beyond what the spotlight allows you to see? The answer might surprise you, but first, how do you feel about Dolly? On a scale of 0 to 10, what would you give her? Drop your number in the comments, because by the time this story is over, your answer might change. Let's go back to the beginning, to a one-room cabin in Tennessee where the real story was written. Part 1. The fourth child of the mountains. Dolly Rebecca Parton was born on January 19, 1946, in a one-room cabin in Locust Ridge, Tennessee, deep in the heart of the Great Smoky Mountains. No electricity, no running water, no insulation against the mountain winters that cut straight to the bone. She was the fourth of 12 children. Let that number sink in. 12 children crammed into a space barely large enough for 4, sleeping 3 or 4 to a bed under quilts stitched together from flour sacks. In winter, ice formed on the inside of the windows. The children woke shivering in the pre-dawn darkness, their breath visible in the frozen air. Her father, Robert Lee Parton, broke his body in the tobacco fields every day, his hands calloused and cracked, yet the money he brought home was never enough to feed all those mouths. He could neither read nor write, a wound he carried silently, never mentioned and never forgotten. Her mother, Avie Lee, possessed the kind of strength that no school could teach. On the nights when there was nothing on the table but cornbread and beans, she sang to her children, not to pretend everything was fine, but because music was the one thing she could give that cost nothing. And Dolly, watching her mother fill an empty room with a melody, learned the first lesson of her life, that a song can reach the places that money cannot. But music couldn't cover the humiliation. At school, Dolly was the girl the other children whispered about. She wore clothes patched together from scraps of fabric. Her shoes had holes so wide her toes poked through. She remembered standing in line at school, watching the other girls in their store-bought dresses, feeling the heat of shame rise slowly up her neck. Her classmates called her trash. Teachers pitied her, and pity, she would learn, is just a gentler form of contempt. And young Dolly stood in the middle of all of it, swallowed it quietly, and told herself, one day. Have you ever wondered what happens inside a child when the world around them keeps saying they are not enough? For most people, the answer is they start to believe it. For Dolly, the answer was different. By age 7, she was writing her own songs, scratching lyrics on scraps of paper with broken pencils. By 10, she was performing on local radio stations in Knoxville. At 13, she stood on the legendary stage of the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, wearing a homemade dress, trembling but unbroken. But the stage lights didn't erase the dark nights back home. There were still evenings when her father sat at the table with his head in his hands, silently crushed under the weight of mouths he couldn't feed. Still nights when Dolly stared at the ceiling of that cabin and made herself a promise. "I had to get out," she later confessed. "Not because I didn't love my family. I loved them more than anything. But I knew if I stayed, I would drown in that poverty. I would become just another forgotten girl in the mountains." The day after she graduated high school in 1964, Dolly didn't wait. She hugged her weeping mother goodbye and boarded a Greyhound bus to Nashville. 18 years old, $20, one guitar, and something that couldn't be measured, an absolute belief in her own voice. Part 2, Nashville, the fortress that devours dreamers. Nashville in 1964 was not a paradise. It was a machine, engineered to grind up dreamers and spit out only those hard enough to survive. Every day, hundreds of young voices flooded into Music Row, and every day, the machine pushed most of them back out, broken, penniless, carrying wounds that would never heal. Dolly rented an apartment so small she could barely turn around in it. She survived on stale crackers and ketchup packets taken from diners. Some nights, she went to bed with her stomach growling, a cruel echo of the childhood she thought she had left behind. She knocked on every door she could find, and every door didn't just close, it slammed. Executives looked at her and saw a joke: the hair piled too high, the clothes cut too tight, the thick Appalachian accent that marked her as an outsider before she even opened her mouth to sing. "Your voice is too high-pitched. Your songs are too simple. You'll never be taken seriously." Here is a question worth sitting with. What keeps a person standing when they are told over and over again that they don't belong? For Dolly, the answer was not some natural-born confidence. It was something rawer, a simple refusal to accept that her dream was wrong. In 1966, Monument Records, a small label fighting for its own survival, offered her a contract. Not the deal she had imagined: restrictive terms, little money, almost no creative control. But it was a door. And Dolly kicked it open. Dumb Blonde, her debut single in 1967, climbed to number 24 on the country charts. For the first time, people were hearing her name. For the first time, she was no longer invisible. But Monument wanted to sand her down into something more digestible, less country, less too much. They wanted to strip away the very essence of what made her Dolly Parton. She swallowed her frustration, smiled for the cameras, and quietly wrote songs that no one there would ever hear. Then fate intervened, the way only Nashville can arrange it. Part 3, Porter Wagoner, Savior or Controller. In 1967, Porter Wagoner, a country music star famous for his flashy rhinestone suits and his nationally syndicated television show, was looking for a new female co-host. His team suggested Dolly. Porter saw what the entire industry had missed: raw talent wrapped in charisma and grit. He offered her a spot on his show, a steady paycheck, national television exposure. Here is a question that might have already crossed your mind. When someone pulls you out of the darkness, how much do you owe them? And more importantly, do they have the right to use your gratitude as a weapon? Dolly accepted, and she stepped onto Porter's stage with a smile that concealed exhaustion, fear, and the scars of years spent simply fighting to be heard. At first, the arrangement seemed reasonable. Porter knew the industry. He had been a star for years before Dolly ever stepped off that bus. She trusted him, but trust, as Dolly would learn, can be a dangerous thing. Porter's control tightened like a noose. He didn't just manage her career, he owned it. The contract she had signed bound her in ways she hadn't fully understood. He took a significant percentage of her earnings, controlled her recording sessions, and had final say over which songs she could release. When Dolly wrote something deeply personal, something she believed in, Porter would dismiss it and insist she record his choices instead. He treated me like I was his property, Dolly later admitted, her voice heavy with the weight of those years. He didn't see me as an artist. He saw me as an extension of his brand. They fought constantly. Heated arguments backstage, tense silences during rehearsals, bitter standoffs over creative direction. Porter could be charming and generous one moment, then cold and controlling the next. He wielded his power like a weapon, reminding her again and again that without him, she would be nothing. But even in the darkest corners of those years, Dolly kept writing. Late at night, alone in her Nashville apartment, she poured her pain, her frustration, and her desperate need for freedom into songs that Porter would never hear. One of those songs was, "I Will Always Love You." Have you ever heard that song and assumed it was a beautiful love story? The truth is, it was never a love song. It was a goodbye letter, a farewell to Porter Wagoner, to the partnership that had both saved her and suffocated her. It was her way of saying, "Thank you for what you gave me, but I have to go. I have to be free." In 1974, after 7 years of battles, tears, and soul-crushing compromise, Dolly walked into Porter's office, hands trembling, and played him that song on her guitar. Every note was a plea. Every word was a farewell. Porter listened in silence. When the last note faded, there were tears in his eyes. He didn't want to let her go, but even he couldn't deny the power of what she had just given him. Reluctantly, he agreed to release her from the contract, but freedom came at a price. Porter demanded a settlement, money Dolly didn't have. She had to borrow, scrape, and sacrifice everything just to buy back her own career. "I will always be grateful to Porter," Dolly said years later, her voice soft but firm. "But I will never forget what it cost me to break free." Part 4, When the Mountain Girl Conquered the World. Freedom arrived with terrifying uncertainty. No manager, no guaranteed income, a mountain of debt. The industry whispered that she had made a mistake, that without Porter, she would fade into obscurity. They were wrong. "I Will Always Love You," the song written as her farewell, was released in 1974 and shot straight to #1 on the country charts. People didn't just hear a breakup song. They heard a woman reclaiming her voice. They heard what freedom sounds like. And Dolly was just getting started. Jolene in 1973, a haunting ballad about jealousy and insecurity that showcased her genius as a storyteller. Here You Come Again in 1977, a crossover pop hit that proved she could dominate beyond the boundaries of country music. And in 1980, 9 to 5, the anthem of working-class America, written for the film of the same name in which Dolly starred, alongside Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin. 9 to 5 wasn't just a hit. It was a movement. It shot to #1 on both the country and pop charts, earned Dolly an Academy Award nomination, and made a woman who had once been told she was too country into a global icon. Then, in 1986, Dolly did something critics called madness. She opened Dollywood, a theme park nestled in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee, just miles from the one-room cabin where she was born. They called it a vanity project, a risky gamble that would surely fail, but Dolly understood something they didn't. People weren't coming to visit a theme park. They were coming to walk inside her story, to feel the magic of the mountains, to believe that dreams can come true no matter where you start. Today, Dollywood attracts more than 3 million visitors a year and stands as one of the largest employers in the region, bringing jobs and hope to the very communities that raised her. "I wanted to bring something back to my people," Dolly said simply. "They gave me everything. This was my way of giving something back." Part 5. The darkness the spotlight never reached. To the outside world, Dolly Parton had everything. But here is a question that few people ever stop to ask. Does greater fame always bring greater loneliness? In 1966, just 2 years after arriving in Nashville, Dolly married Carl Thomas Dean, a quiet, private man she met outside a laundromat on her very first day in the city. Carl was the opposite of everything Dolly was. He shunned the spotlight, avoided crowds, and wanted nothing to do with fame. While Dolly chased stages and cameras, Carl stayed home, running his asphalt paving business in quiet anonymity. In over 5 decades of marriage, he has been photographed with her only a handful of times. He has never attended an award ceremony, never walked a red carpet. Many people have questioned it, and the question is not entirely without reason. Can a marriage truly survive when 2 people live in completely different worlds? Dolly has always defended it fiercely. "Carl is my rock," she says. "He doesn't need the spotlight. He just needs me to come home." But the truth was more complicated. The price of her career was absence. Dolly was constantly on the road, recording, touring, filming, building her empire. Weeks became months away from home. Phone calls replaced conversations. Letters replaced intimacy. "There were times I felt like I was married to my career more than to Carl," she later admitted, with painful honesty. "I loved him, but I wasn't there, and that guilt ate at me." Then, in the mid-1980s, the weight became too much to carry. Dolly collapsed, not figuratively, literally. She has spoken about that period only in fragments, but those fragments are enough to paint a devastating picture. Severe depression, crippling anxiety, and thoughts of ending it all. "I was at my lowest," she confessed in a rare moment of vulnerability. "I was successful by every measure, but inside I felt empty, worthless. I couldn't see a way forward." And then came the moment that nobody saw coming. Dolly Parton, the woman who had conquered Nashville, outlasted Porter Wagoner, and built an empire from $20 and an old guitar, sat alone in the darkness beside a loaded gun. What do you think pulled her back? Not fame, not money, not the memory of any award or accolade. It was her small dog, who came running into the room, tail wagging, eyes full of a love that knew nothing of the tragedy unfolding around it. "That dog looked at me like I was the whole world," Dolly recalled, tears in her eyes. "And I realized, if I did this, who would take care of him? Who would miss him? And I knew I couldn't do it." It was a fragile thread of grace, thin enough to break at any moment, that pulled her back from the edge. Dolly sought help, therapy, medication, the support of the few people she truly trusted. And Carl, who demanded no explanation, asked her to change nothing and simply stayed, quiet and steady and unwavering. "Carl saved my life in ways he will never fully understand," she said. "He didn't try to fix me. He just loved me." And that was enough. And through that slow, painful climb back toward the light, Dolly learned the most important truth of her life, the one that no hit record and no Grammy could ever teach. It is okay not to be okay. You can be strong and still break. And breaking doesn't mean you are weak. It means you are human. Part 6, the costume and the cruelty. For decades, Dolly Parton was mocked, dismissed, reduced to a punchline, the big wigs, the tight clothes, the exaggerated femininity. Critics called her a caricature. Late-night hosts made her the butt of their jokes. Tabloids dissected her body, her hair, her face with vicious delight. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, why does the world feel the need to tear down a woman who has made something extraordinary of herself? And what does that impulse say about us? Far more than it says about her. Dolly understood exactly what was happening. People see the hair and the figure, and they think that's all there is, she once said, her voice carrying a quiet edge of frustration. They don't see the songwriter. They don't see the businesswoman. They just see the costume. But here is the truth that most people missed. The costume was entirely intentional. Dolly Parton was never trapped inside her image. She built it, deliberately, strategically, with the precision of a woman who understood that the best way to dismantle a stereotype is to own it first. "It costs a lot of money to look this cheap," she said with a sly smile. That line was a joke, but it was also a declaration of war. The criticism wasn't only about her appearance. When Here You Come Again crossed over into pop, country purists accused her of betrayal. Some radio stations refused to play her music. They called her a sellout. Dolly's response was simple and unapologetic. "I didn't leave country music. I just took it with me to a bigger stage." Then, in the late 1980s, the tabloids attacked her for gaining weight. The headlines were merciless. Unflattering photographs appeared everywhere. Critics called her washed up, irrelevant, a woman clinging to past glory. For someone who had already fought her way through depression and deep insecurity, those attacks struck something old and raw. "I was hurting," she admitted, "and the world saw my pain and turned it into entertainment." But Dolly didn't crumble. She rebuilt herself, not for the cameras, but for her own sake. And when she returned to the stage, she came back stronger than before. When asked about the plastic surgery, the criticism, the constant commentary on her appearance, she replied with her most famous line, "If I see something sagging, bagging, or dragging, I'm gonna have it nipped, tucked, or sucked." Laughter was her armor. If she laughed at herself first, no one else's mockery could reach her. But beneath the humor, the pain remained. "You can't let people see you cry," she said quietly. "Because if they see you cry, they win. So you smile, you keep going, you survive." Her greatest victory, however, wasn't won on a stage. It was won in a lawyer's office. When she educated herself on the business of music, hired the sharpest attorneys she could find, and protected her publishing rights with the same fierce intelligence she'd always had. The payoff came in 1992, when Whitney Houston recorded "I Will Always Love You" for the Bodyguard. The song sold more than 20 million copies and became one of the best-selling singles in history. Because Dolly owned the publishing rights, she earned a reported $10 million from that one cover alone. The woman they had called a dumb blonde had outmaneuvered an entire industry. Part 7. The losses no one talks about. Fame gave Dolly Parton many things, but it could never protect her from the cruelest truth of all, that the people we love most will eventually leave us. And for Dolly, loss came repeatedly, without mercy and without warning. In 2003, her older brother Larry died after years of battling addiction. Dolly watched from a distance, pouring money and love into trying to help, and found herself powerless against the force of his illness. "I couldn't save him," she admitted, her voice breaking. "I had all that money, all that success, and I couldn't save my own brother." The guilt was relentless, that quiet, corrosive wondering that survivors carry. Could I have done more? Said more? Been there more? Then, in 2018, her younger brother Floyd, songwriter and musician himself, a man who had cheered for Dolly from the sidelines his entire life, passed away. When the news reached her, Dolly was performing thousands of miles away, unable to say goodbye. She finished the show, because that is what Dolly Parton always does, but backstage, she collapsed in grief. "Losing Floyd broke something in me," she later confessed. "He was my baby brother, and I wasn't there." That was the pattern, inescapable and merciless. Her career had carried her to the highest peaks of success, but that same career had pulled her away from the people she loved most at the moments that mattered most. In 2020, she lost Kenny Rogers, her longtime friend and collaborator, at the age of 81. Their bond had been one of the few genuinely real connections in an industry built on facades. Their duet Islands in the Stream had become an anthem. His friendship had been an anchor. Dolly wept openly in interviews, unable to hold herself together. "I've lost one of my closest friends," she said, her voice trembling, "and I will never be the same." The cruelty was compounded by the COVID-19 pandemic, which prevented her from attending his funeral. She watched the service on a screen, once again too far away, once again too late. But perhaps the deepest loss of all came in 2003, when her father, Robert Lee Parton, passed away at the age of 79. Robert Lee had been a complicated figure. Hardened by poverty, unable to read or write, a man who worked himself to the bone, yet could never provide the life he wished for his children. He was strict, emotionally distant, not given to words of tenderness. Dolly had spent her entire life chasing one thing from him, his approval, even as she became a global superstar, even as she bought her parents a beautiful home and surrounded them with comforts they had never known. The words she needed to hear never came easily. "I'm proud of you." "I know he loved me," Dolly said, tears falling freely. "But I wish he had told me more. I wish I had heard him say it." And then, just months later, her mother, Avi Lee, the woman who had sung to her children when there was nothing on the table, the woman who had believed in Dolly's voice before the world knew her name, was gone. Losing her mother was like losing gravity itself. Dolly canceled appearances. She retreated from the world. She spent days in bed, unable to stop the tears, unable to imagine existing in a world where her mother's voice no longer lived. "She was my everything," Dolly said barely above a whisper. "And when she died, a part of me died too." Have you ever wondered how a person continues after losing the one who was their very foundation? For Dolly, the answer has always been the same thing: music. "Music is how I survive," she has said. "When I can't speak, I sing. When I can't cry anymore, I write. It's the only way I know how to heal." Part 8. The Legacy of a Woman Who Never Forgot. As Dolly Parton moved into the later chapters of her life, she made a choice that not everyone with her resources has the courage to make. She chose to give away more than she kept. In 1995, she launched the Imagination Library, a program that mails a free book every month to children from birth to age 5. No applications, no income requirements, no strings attached, just books, and the belief that every child, regardless of where they were born, deserves access to the worlds that live inside a story. Today, the Imagination Library operates in 5 countries and has gifted over 200 million books to children around the world. 200 million books, free, no conditions. If I can help one child learn to read, Dolly says, her eyes glistening, then everything I've been through was worth it. When devastating wildfires swept through the Smoky Mountains in 2016, destroying homes and displacing thousands of families, Dolly didn't issue a statement. She launched the My People Fund, sending $1,000 a month for 6 months to every family who lost their home. No applications, no red tape, no waiting. More than $12 million was distributed directly to people who needed it immediately. "These are my people," she said simply. "And when your people are hurting, you show up." In 2020, Dolly quietly donated $1 million to Vanderbilt University Medical Center to fund research. That donation helped contribute to the development of the mRNA vaccine, one of the most powerful tools in the fight against COVID-19. She made no announcement, held no press conference, simply did it. When the world found out and praised her, she shrugged with characteristic humility. "I just wanted to help. I'm just glad if I had any part in saving lives." Over the years, Dolly has donated tens of millions of dollars to causes ranging from literacy to disaster relief, from children's hospitals to LGBTQ+ organizations. She has funded college scholarships for students who could not afford tuition. She has stood firmly for equality in a world that often chooses division. "I don't care who you love or what you believe, Shah," she has said. "If you need help, I'm going to help you." In a world increasingly fractured by politics, religion, and ideology, Dolly stands as a reminder that genuine kindness requires no conditions. She is a devout Christian who champions LGBTQ+ rights, a proud Southerner who speaks out against racism, a woman who refuses to let any label define the reach of her compassion. "I'm for everybody," she says simply. Love is love, people are people, and we all deserve a chance. Part 9. The Woman Standing at the End of the Journey. Today, at 79 years old, Dolly Parton still wakes before dawn and writes songs in the quiet hours before the world stirs. She still lives in Tennessee, not far from the mountains that made her. She still visits Dollywood, walking through the park she built, watching children laugh and families create memories in the place where she once had nothing. And when she sees a child holding a book from the Imagination Library, her eyes still fill with tears. "I never forget," she says softly. "I never forget what it felt like to have nothing. And I never want another child to feel that way." Her marriage to Carl Dean, now deep into its 6th decade, remains as private and unshakable as it has always been. Carl still avoids the spotlight, still runs his business, still greets Dolly at the door when she comes home from the road. In a world where everything feels temporary, that steadiness is its own kind of miracle. Dolly has no children of her own, a fact that once brought her deep sadness, but she has come to see it differently. "I have millions of children," she says. "Every child who gets a book from the Imagination Library is mine. Every family I helped after the fires is mine. I may not have given birth, but I have given life in other ways." Now, after everything you have just heard about Dolly Parton, the barefoot girl from the one-room cabin with no electricity, the woman Nashville rejected, the artist Porter Wagoner tried to own, the icon the world mocked and underestimated, the woman who once sat alone in the dark beside a loaded gun and was pulled back by nothing more than the unconditional love of a small dog. I want to ask you something. What will you carry with you from this story? Will it be the reminder that where you start does not determine where you finish? That the people who mock you the loudest are often the ones who understand you the least? That the truest measure of a life is not what you accumulate, but what you give away? Or perhaps something simpler, that it is okay not to be okay, that even the strongest among us can break, and that breaking is not the end. It is simply the next chapter of the story. Dolly Parton was never guaranteed success. She was not born into privilege or connection or luck. She was born with a voice, a one-room cabin, and a mother who sang to her children on the nights when the table was empty. And from that, she built something no award ceremony will ever be able to measure. "I hope when I'm gone," Dolly once said, her voice quiet but steady, "people will remember that I cared, that I tried, that I gave everything I had to make things a little better." And they will, because Dolly Parton didn't just survive her story. She transformed it into something beautiful. Something that will outlast every record, every rhinestone, and every number on a chart.